So there are portals and all sorts of weirdness going on at Skinwalker Ranch, and we've got to talk about it. We're talking about episode 4 of season 3 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Get in here, it's going to be fun. Before I get too far into it, please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and as I'm talking about it, please comment below and let me know what you think. Okay, let's dive into episode 4 of season 3. Well, last week ended with them wanting to bring in some astronomers to look at the triangle, at the anomaly over or around the triangle, the little area that where some roads converge, and they call it the triangle. And there's been a lot of funky stuff going on there, so they bring in some astronomers and they want to look at that area and see if with their sophisticated equipment these astronomers can tell what the hell is going on. So they do. They bring these 3 guys on. They've got some really fancy equipment, and they start looking at the anomaly, the invisible, largely anomaly over the ranch. At least in this one part of it. I mean, there's other weird areas of the ranch, but they have, in this season, they have really focused their attention on the triangle. And I'm so glad they did, because we've been getting some really fascinating results. And so they get these guys out there, and they start looking at the anomaly. Of course, they have to, sidetrack, and we've got the subplot of investigating the local, the Indian Native American lore and reaction to the phenomenon on the ranch, and learning what they know about it. Now, this was kind of interesting because this episode we get the Skinwalker Ranch's nearest neighbor, who you would think would see a lot of weird stuff. And she comes over and talks about, seeing a UFO, and how her dad, or I think a grandfather, actually saw a skinwalker, or, whatever the hell it is. So it presents itself as a skinwalker. And it was a figure in a cloak, and then it vanished. Very interesting. And the skinwalkers are often depicted as wearing cloaks. Sometimes they will don the skin of an animal, and then they will become that animal. That's kind of the lore as I understand it. And they're nefarious beings. So very interesting that whatever is going on presents itself to an Indian elder as a typical skinwalker. So, is it a skinwalker? Has maybe people's belief in the skinwalker conjured an actual skinwalker? Is the phenomenon presenting itself as a skinwalker to elicit a certain reaction like fear? Because that comes up over and over again. The skinwalker and manifesting as a giant wolf or a wolf man, werewolf kind of being. Even non-Indians see this thing or things. So what's going on there? Would love to know. What do you think is going on? Is the phenomenon trying to scare people? Is that what's happening? If so, why doesn't it just chase them off of the ranch? It'll attack the cow, but, like with the Shermans or the Gormans, it attacked the cow, but it didn't attack them. It could have just charged at them and forced them to flee, but it didn't. So if it's trying to scare them, it's not doing a great job, at least not of scaring people away. So I find that fascinating that it's scaring people just enough to interest them, not enough to get them to leave. So what's that all about? Anyway, so that's all of the side plot for today. Mainly they're focused on the astronomers and what the astronomers are doing, which is very interesting, because they train their equipment on the anomaly, on the triangle, and what happens? Of course, the phenomenon jacks with their equipment. It disables one system after another. They're not able to, they're trying to lock onto stars to calibrate their equipment. And they're trying to pick stars close to the triangle so they can focus on the triangle. Well, the stars vanish from their equipment, and they try multiple pieces of equipment. They get the same response. How do you like my alien mug? Pretty cool, right? Yeah, so they their equipment starts to malfunction, one at a time, and Travis gets the idea. Well, okay, so the phenomenon is doing something. It's trying to mess with us, so we better shoot off a rocket. So they shoot off a rocket. I don't think a lot happens with that particular rocket, but then they fire up a laser pointer, and something is blocking or diffracting. Is that the word? Maybe that's not the right word. What's the word? Where the light splits. Yeah, something is interfering with the actual laser pointer. At one point, there's a little Y at the end of the laser line. And it seems to shift and yeah, so it's like actually hitting something or something is messing with it, which is fascinating. So of course, since something is going on, Travis has to fire another rocket. He loves to fire rockets. This man loves his rockets. Maybe there's something going on there. I don't know, but hey, who doesn't like rockets? Rockets are cool, and the ranch seems to do stuff with rockets. It doesn't particularly like having a rocket shot at it. Also, something could be going on there. Yeah, so they fire the rockets, a rocket, and the cows start to go crazy, which is really interesting because the phenomenon often seems to mess with the cows. So was it spreading fear amongst the cows to discourage the humans from doing this? What exactly was up with interfering with the cows? Because none of the cows were killed in this episode, so that's good. But it's very interesting that it would go after the cows. Does that mean maybe a presence came down or presences came down and were observing the humans and were, actively messing with their equipment instead of doing it remotely? Maybe they had to be hands on to mess with the equipment, and the cows were sensing the presences of the beings and then going nuts. I don't know, but it's fascinating to consider. But that's not the end of it, because right then a UFO shows up. A big, bright, round UFO with a little dot in the middle, a little black dot in the middle of it. And it's very large, very bright, and it just kind of drifts, as one of the astronomers says, lazily over the ranch. Clearly not a plane, not blinking. It's just a big, steady, round orb-like, UFO, and it is making no bones about it. It wants to be observed. So I think that's fascinating. Why does the UFO want to be observed? Because again, we're talking about this phenomenon evoking fear reactions often, but sometimes it just wants to be observed. But it wasn't like the UFO was trying to intimidate or scare them. It wasn't sending negative thoughts into their minds or scary thoughts into their minds. It wasn't performing aggressively or violently. So why? Yeah. So why? Why did the phenomenon show up with a UFO? Was it just observing them? I don't think so, because this thing doesn't have to be seen if it doesn't want to be seen. If it wants to be invisible, it will be invisible. Maybe sometimes we can get glimpses of it when it doesn't intend to be viewed. Maybe. But most of the time, the phenomenon in general can be invisible whenever it wants to be. So this did not want to be invisible. This wanted to be seen. So was it just saying hello? Because when you start to think about the phenomenon scaring people just enough to get their attention and their interest, and then at the same time presenting itself in these displays as if it's tantalizing and teasing people into further investigating it, but at the same time, it won't let them investigate it because it jacks with their equipment. So, I mean, pick a side phenomenon. Ah, it's such a tease, but it won't let you study it. Ah, God, I love it, but man, what the hell? Okay, but that's not even the end of it. Because the next morning, something wakes Travis up. Something bangs on his trailer, apparently, at 5:13 in the morning, and he shoots up. And at the exact same time, Eric, he shoots up from a night terror. Something very similar. And Eric goes over to the command center, and he looks at the sky to see what's going on, and he sees this thing flashing like a portal opening in the sky. Like, as he says later when they have a big group conference, that maybe if there is a portal over the triangle, that maybe that's the other end of the portal. Or maybe it was Travis who said that. Whoever, maybe it was Eric, whatever. So there may be if there is a portal, maybe what they saw was the other end of the portal, the other end of the wormhole opening and closing. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it works, but an amazing capture on their cameras where you see this flash of light like that, like something opening and closing. Just an amazing display. So they get a great UFO in this episode, and then they get what appears to be some portal or something opening and closing. Who knows what it is. Maybe it's nothing to do with the portal at all. Maybe it's just some ship or entity, something coming and going from a higher plane of existence or dimension. I research this stuff a lot, and I come across accounts like Peter Maxwell Slattery, and he sees these Merkabas, these fascinating higher dimensional objects or beings, and he says we all have Merkabas. Maybe that's our higher self, and he can actually see them, and he actually got one on camera, and it's not quite what they found. It was flashing and rotating, and but really interesting. I think about the higher dimensions interacting with us and our reality here. And I do think that something like that is going on at Skinwalker Ranch. Even Lou Elizondo said when asked about Skinwalker Ranch, and I think of Lou as a fairly nuts and bolts guy, he doesn't engage in a lot of consciousness-based discussion, although he will. He does go there. He knows that the phenomenon goes there, so he goes there too. But when asked about Skinwalker Ranch, he said he believed it had something to do, or we needed to think about where human souls go and where they come from. That is what he said when asked about Skinwalker Ranch. So he went to a consciousness or spiritual or dimensional place when I normally think of him as a very nuts and bolts guy. So yeah, something dimensional is happening at Skinwalker Ranch, in my opinion, and maybe that's what they were able to capture on film. Maybe it was one end of a wormhole. What do you think? What do you think that was? Have you seen the episode? What do you think they captured on film was? What was that? Was that a ship? Was that a wormhole? Was that a portal? Was that a higher dimensional phenomenon of some sort? And then, I don't want to give my review for A Terror in the Sky yet. I'm going to give that soon, though. But if you've seen A Terror in the Sky and you've seen this episode, you can probably tell where I'm going with this. Both of them seem to show some portal or portal-like object or portal. And they were both able to capture it on camera. They captured something different. What each showed is they don't seem to be the same thing, but it's fascinating to consider that we are now starting to be able to capture portals on film now, if that's what they are. And maybe one was a portal and one wasn't, or maybe they both weren't. Anyway, but really interesting phenomenon that phenomena, I guess, because I think they were different from each other. But really fascinating that we are starting to capture this really interesting phenomena on camera. I don't remember that ever happening before, but people are devoting serious resources into studying the phenomenon now, and I'm talking about the greater phenomenon now, an umbrella word I use to encapsulate everything from Bigfoot, UFOs, to near-death experiences. But we are able to capture some of this stuff on camera now, or maybe it's more accurate to say that the phenomenon is allowing us to capture some of this stuff on camera now. I think that is a tantalizing thought. What does that mean if the phenomenon is interacting with us more and allowing us to interact with it more and to observe it more? Does that mean that we are entering a new phase in our relationship with the phenomenon? I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Please, as always, give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Like it down below. Comment down below. Let me know what you think, because this is fascinating stuff, and I would love to know what you think, because I could use your insight, because I don't know what's going on, but it is fascinating. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you do, the bell next to it to be notified of future videos. And as always, please share it on social media so we can get the word out about what's going on Cosmic Road. Until next time, Cosmic Road out.